This is the Jerusalem Post podcast, Travel Edition. Coming up.
All he had is black coffee and one slice of dry toast for breakfast. And he was so thin.
If only the stones could talk, they'd be telling the stories of kings and conquerors and sultans and soldiers and pilgrims and everyday Jerusalemites.
He's very dark for an Elvis, and he's got chai around his neck.
So sit back and enjoy the trip with David Harris and Mark Gordon.
And that is co-host Mark Gordon consuming large quantities of Bisley. What else is in that mix?
I'm not allowed to talk while I'm masticating.
You've stopped masticating. What else is there? There's kubukim.
I just thought you'd swept up the floor and put it all in that bowl, but it's still quite tasty.
It is amazing. I lived in Israel so long, I don't even know if people do it in other countries now, but where they've got sort of bits of potato chips and twisty ones and corn-flavoured things. And I don't know if they're just all left over, and then they throw them all into a bag and they sell it and people love it. So it's like a cocktaily mix, I guess, is the fancy way of saying it. But the reason I'm mentioning all of this is because this is a classic Israeli food, and I guess because we're focusing on Jerusalem today, it's the type of thing that Jerusalemites consume.
Do they?
Just say yes for the sake of the podcast.
Yes, I thought they consume popcorn. Popcorn is very popular in Jerusalem.
Is it just in Israel that you go into a movie theatre and you end up having to be rescued by a lifeguard from the sea of popcorn at the end of a movie?
And the sunflower seed.
Yes. I once remember going to a soccer game in the old main stadium in Ramat Gan, Israel against Cyprus, and I literally had to be pulled out of the place where I was standing from the welter of Garynim seeds, of sunflower seeds.
You and your welters again.
If you want to know why we're talking about welter, go and look at our new YouTube channel, Mark David Pod. You will find videos of us doing incredibly silly things and some serious stuff all across the globe.
And you were weltering a lot in China.
I was, but you'll have to go and, you can listen to the podcast as well from Shanghai and watch the video about Shanghai. You know what, why don't we, since we've already started plugging things, why don't we do a reverse? Because normally we plug ourselves at the end when everybody's already bored and have turned off the podcast or hit delete. Why don't we plug ourselves?
If you love what you're listening to and you haven't really started listening, but I assume this is not your first podcast. We're on episode 95 or something.
And just to say, if you haven't listened to the other 94 or whatever podcasts, Mark doesn't actually start crunching normally till about halfway through.
No, this was a special, a Jerusalem special, and you had no popcorn.
Yes, sorry.
Oh, we're on the wine now. We have a wine podcast from the Judean Hills just outside Jerusalem.
In fact, the wine that you are consuming, I think it's a Jerusalem Gewürztraminer.
Yes, from the Jerusalem vineyards.
Yeah. Anyway, more to come on that, hopefully in an upcoming pod. Listen, we're meant to be plugging ourselves, not Jerusalem at the moment. If you do like our podcast, please follow, share, tell your friends about them. Give us a 5-star rating, all those types of things, make a comment. They really, really help us in terms of search engine optimization or something.
And if you want to be in contact with us and tell us how much you love us or hate us or ask us anything at all, you can email us on markdavidpod@gmail.com. We are on Instagram at markdavidpod, and we are on Twitter at markdavidpod, and we're at Facebook, Mark David Pod, which is also titled Mark and David's Travels.
Moving swiftly on, we are going to talk about Jerusalem for the rest of the podcast, having talked about ourselves for the first 3 minutes. What have we got coming up?
We are going to talk to Caroline from the Tower of David Museum.
To find out all about
the Tower of David Museum.
That's a good job. Then we're going to be delving into the very bizarre relationship between the king, no, not David, but Elvis Presley, and the Jerusalem Hills.
And I don't know if you listened to, about a year ago, we went to 2 wonderful hotels in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem.
I listened.
You were there.
Oh, yeah.
One of those was called the Teatron Hotel.
Oh, lovely.
We spoke to the general manager, Sheldon, and we got so much material that we saved some of it for today.
I'm not into name dropping. I'm not into celebrity, but
Sheldon is.
We're going to be talking Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, I think, gets a mention, lots of Tony Blair. So stay tuned for the inside story on the world's leaders.
Has Elvis stayed there?
Uh-huh.
Is that the quiz question?
No. Oh, we need to come up with a quiz question now, don't we?
Yes.
All right, then. Here's a quiz question for you. And you've got the whole podcast to think about it, obviously, after listening to Caroline and Sheldon and the King.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. How many names of Jerusalem can you come up with? How many names of Jerusalem can you come up with? And send us in your answers, because we'd love to know if there are more than the ones we came up with.
The answer at the end of the show.
To talk the latest news in Israel, the Jewish world, and everything in between.
This is the J-Post Podcast. I'm Tamar Uriel-Beery, Deputy Editor-in-Chief of the Jerusalem Post.
And I'm Tzvika Klein, Editor-in-Chief of the Jerusalem Post.
And I'm Sarah Ben-Nun, Night Editor at the Jerusalem Post. Join us as we bring some of the most impactful voices to bring you into what it means to be Jewish, to be Israeli today.
Every week, we bring you with us into the newsroom in every sense.
Stop being so dramatic. This is just our coffee break.
You can find us every Thursday on jpost.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We'll see you there.
Yalla, bye.
Yerushalayim shel zachav.
Oh, no.
No, okay, I won't
Please
sing it.
don't. Please don't.
I was answering the quiz question about names of Jerusalem. Jerusalem of gold.
Very good.
There you go.
I love history. The older I get, the more I'm fascinated by history as I become a historic artifact myself. One of the places that, as a Zionist over the years, that I've gone back to many times was the Tower of David. And I used to go to learn about the history of the city, about the invaders, about the Ottomans and the Mamluks and all these strange people that lived many years ago. And each time I went back to the Tower of David, it was reinventing itself. You probably weren't in Israel when they had a Chihuly glass exhibition, which they interpolated into all of the walls and the grassy areas and so on. Do you remember that?
I'm still trying to work out what interpolated means.
It goes in the same column as welter.
Bucolic.
I love bucolic. Anyway.
No, I don't remember.
You don't remember. So Chihuly was amazing and thousands of people came. Then they started, well, I don't want to spoil it all because we're going to talk about it.
I'm trying to think if I've actually been. I know this is really terrible.
No.
I'm not sure I've been.
It's amazing. The truth is I haven't been for a long time, but I've been many, many times. Love it.
I'm an ignoramus. What can I say?
Shall we educate you?
Please.
So I'm not going to tell you anymore, but the Director of External Relations at the Tower of David Museum, Caroline Shapiro-Weiss, can.
The Tower of David is an ancient citadel, so a fortress that was built over many, many years. It stands at the Jaffa Gate entrance to Jerusalem's Old City. And when I say it was built over many, many years, in the Tower of David complex, we have over 2,700 years of Jerusalem's history, layer upon layer of history. You know, we often say if only the stones could talk, they'd be telling the stories of kings and conquerors and sultans and soldiers and pilgrims and everyday Jerusalemites over this long period of history. Its significance is that it has stood there protecting Jerusalem throughout all these different time periods. And when you wander through, you can actually touch the stones, as I said, going back hundreds and hundreds of years. Teddy Kollek decided that in the citadel, there could be a museum that would tell the story of Jerusalem. So the story of the citadel is very much the story of Jerusalem. And that is why there is a museum at the Tower of David.
The museum opened in 1989, but it's my understanding that it's all been changed and revamped and recently reopened again. Tell us about that process.
Yes, it's been a long process over a 10-year period. In fact, over 10 years, there has been planning for the new Tower of David Jerusalem Museum. And it was a $50 million renewal and conservation project that was led by the Claw Israel Foundation. And a team of architects and archaeologists and designers and engineers and curators and many more people came together to try and figure out how best to use the citadel to tell the story of Jerusalem. and also to make the Citadel an accessible museum. So all the exhibition rooms now in the Citadel are accessible, and it's truly exciting to see a fusion of ancient artifacts and interactive and immersive technology tell the complex and colourful stories of Jerusalem.
So those are the headlines. What about the details? What are people going to see when they come to the museum?
The exhibition is split into 10 exhibition rooms, into 10 gallery rooms that are in fact the ancient guard rooms of the Citadel. And each room looks at a different aspect of Jerusalem. So the first gallery gives you a chronological history of Jerusalem, and the next 3 galleries look at the significance of Jerusalem, the centrality of Jerusalem in Judaism, the significance of Jerusalem in Christianity and in Islam. We have what we like to say is a modern day fresco on an old vaulted ceiling of one of the rooms that looks at the circle of the year in Jerusalem of all the different festivals that take place. It's really quite a mesmerizing room. You sit back and you go through the year during a 7-minute audio video installation. Other highlights are we have got an incredible model, a bird's eye view of Jerusalem, a model that shows Jerusalem in 1872. And what's wondrous about this model is it was actually made in 1872. We've got the most incredible view from the top of the Fazel Tower, where you can see really 360 degrees of Jerusalem. We look over the old city because, of course, we're on the very far western side of the old city. And if you just turn your back to the old city, you've got all the views of the new city of Jerusalem. So there's so much to do. You could spend hours and hours in the museum.
A lot of museums that David and I get to go to while recording the podcast have transformed over years, and there's a lot more interaction and a lot more things for people to touch.
Buttons to press to keep you occupied,
Yes, although occasionally I do break them.
Yes, he did.
Sorry, Azerbaijan. What is there that's interactive to play with for somebody like me with a short attention span?
The design concept of the museum, of the content, the story of Jerusalem, we wanted to create it so that our visitors were active in their quest for the knowledge of Jerusalem. And obviously, everybody goes through museums looking in different ways, but it was a way that we wanted to use technology that we would allow people to actively delve deep into the history of Jerusalem and also to be great for kids and young people. When you walk into the initial room, when you go in and there's a 12-meter interactive wall where you can go through 4,000 years of history, each time period of Jerusalem's history, you can activate or through a film or through looking at a map during that time or at a film. You can look at it through all sorts of different objects that have explanations written next to them. It's an incredible interactive wall. But I have to tell you, Mark, that in every single exhibition room, there are interactive ways that we tell the story of Jerusalem so that everyone, all ages, can really interact with Jerusalem's history in all different ways.
We're going to get on in a minute to the impact, unfortunately, of the war on the museum. But before that, with all the cancellation of flights, people aren't getting to Jerusalem. So is there a way for people to participate, to understand, to look at the museum from where they are online?
So the answer is yes. First of all, we have a newsletter in English that goes out on a frequent basis. And in the newsletter, we have all sorts of behind-the-scenes films that show different aspects of the museum. So that's always fun to look at and to see that. The other thing that I just want to tell you about, it's brand new, it's on our website, is that we have created the panoramic view of Jerusalem on our website. And it's absolutely amazing. We did it because I talked a little bit about the accessibility of the museum and we made all the rooms accessible, but the actual view top, the last 30 steps up to the view top, we can't make that accessible. We weren't allowed to add an elevator to the Citadel. And so instead, what we've created is a VR experience that anyone who comes to the museum who can't get up to the final steps can email us ahead of time or access it on their phones. And we did it for that reason. But actually, it's so amazing that we've put it on our website for everyone to enjoy. So you can go onto our website, which I'll let you know now. It's tod.org.il. Go onto the English page and just search for 360 Panorama. And it's amazing. You can go down and touch the different buttons and see Jerusalem at night. It gives you all the information about many of the sites that you can see from the skyline. So you can even just be in Jerusalem from your home right now.
A recent edition of the Jerusalem Post had a fashion show that was filmed at the museum, and it was war related. It was called We Will Dress Again, taking on the theme about We Will Dance Again from Nova. The war has had a really awful effect on tourism in Israel. How has it affected the museum?
A really awful effect is absolutely that when it comes to tourism and the museum. The museum is normally 82% self-funded through ticket sales, and many of those, of course, are from tourists. So it has hugely impacted our budget. And we are, so hoping for better days for Israel. With that, we can look forward to better days for the museum as well. Having said that, throughout the last year, we've had an open door policy for any evacuated residents, for soldiers, reserve soldiers, for families of reserve soldiers, many, many activities that through the open door policy, visitors have been able to come. We were the first museum that opened when the war started. We opened on October the 10th. We had no idea who was going to come. I've spent all these years saying that culture is so important. It's good for the soul, and we say it. And truly on October the 10th, I thought, who am I kidding? Really, who's going to come to the museum? And it was quite incredible. We had families that came straight from the south, also from the north, but these families that came with their children from the south, they said to us it was the first time that they'd seen their children smile. It was the first time they'd seen their children run around. We did some wonderful activities and collaborations with local Jerusalem photographers so that children who were celebrating their bar and bat mitzvahs at the time could come to the museum with their families and have a photo shoot with the hope that they would be able to go home and frame a wonderful memory and not just look back at this time period as in the dark. The responses that we had from evacuated residents then and continues until today is truly heartwarming, and it's a privilege to be able to do.
It's not just the daytime museum. Talk about the night experience.
Well, the Tower of David gives you 2 night experiences. The first is the Night Spectacular. The second is King David, and it is the stories of Jerusalem or of King David are projected onto the walls of the ancient citadel. It's outdoors under the starry Jerusalem nights, and it's quite fabulous, and they run throughout the year. So check the website again to see if they're running when you're here.
I saw the Spectacular the very first night that it ran, and it was wonderful. Really, really worth seeing. When I was a kid, I remember talking to my mum and dad when we visited. I was 14 years old, and I said, how on earth do people get around here in wheelchairs? You've already talked a little bit about it, but now you're really looking at accessibility and becoming a centre of attention internationally for that theme.
It's been a journey from 2015 where we've been working with special needs communities and making the museum, as I said, accessible, so much so that we are about to have a global online conference on accessibility in historic sites and cities. So this is a conference that will happen in the first week of December. It is free registration. We've got people from all over the world, which is quite amazing to bring people together on such an important issue and to be coming out of Israel at this time. We've got people from the United States, from England, France, Holland, Brazil, Italy. The list is long of all different speakers who are happy to share and want to share the stage on this very important subject. If you have listeners that are interested, it'll be attacking all sorts of questions, both with regards to physical challenges and also to content.
How do our listeners get in contact with the museum, find out about the museum and get tickets?
We've got a great website. It's in English. It's easy to use. So just go to tod.org.il It's all there. And my name's Caroline, and I'm happy for any questions. People can contact me through the website if they have any questions.
Caroline Shapiro, Director of External Relations at the Tower of David Museum. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is the Jerusalem Post Podcast Travel Edition. Find us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at MarkDavidPod or mail us at markdavidpod@gmail.com.
And now the latest news from the Jerusalem Post Podcast Travel Edition. With the war now raging on multiple fronts, flying in and out of Israel is more challenging than ever. Options are extremely limited as airlines cancel flights well into 2025. The only major non-Israeli flights flying out of Israel at recording time are Etihad, Fly Dubai, Ethiopian, Tarom and Cyprus Airways.
With all major low-cost airlines including Wizz, Ryanair and EasyJet cancelled until 2025, Terminal 1 at Ben Gurion Airport was shuttered to international flights until the end of March 2025. Amid the rest of the chaos, Ben Gurion Airport will increase its fees to airlines by an average 7% from January 2025.
Alas, the bad news for tourists doesn't end there. A number of major airlines warned they might not return because of a change to Israel's aviation services law, which entitles passengers to claim extra compensation. This in addition to refunds against airlines for cancellations caused by the war. But it appears that for the second year running, a proposal to charge VAT sales tax to tourists was scrapped at the last minute.
For those passengers who can't get to Israel, Chinese startup Deep Blue Aerospace has the solution. Space flights start at a mere 1.5 million yuan, around $210,000. The company's suborbital flights will last approximately 12 minutes with at least 5 minutes of weightlessness, ascending to altitudes between 100 and 150 kilometers, that's 60 to 90 miles, crossing the boundary between Earth's atmosphere and outer space.
Remember the story of the cruise for life? Villa V was offering the chance to own your own residence at sea. Well, not everything went to plan, and the vessel only left Belfast in September, 4 months later than advertised. Initial problems with the water and sewage tanks were fixed in France. With a following wind, the swimming pools will hopefully be working by the time the ship reaches the Caribbean. Have you listened to the Jerusalem Post Podcast Travel Edition? I'm David Harris, and together with my co-host Mark Gordon, we bring you the best from the world of travel and tourism.
We have people who literally fly to Park City just to do the ski minion.
And it has that heavenly taste that you don't really find nowadays in the market.
When was the last time you went to a restaurant and they bought you a picnic basket about 8 courses in?
The Dracula tour, that's a very unusual honeymoon option, really.
The Jerusalem Post Podcast Travel Edition brings you the joys of travel and tourism, so why not subscribe today wherever you get your podcasts.
Cheers, Mark.
Cheers, David.
Oh.
You were always on my mind. You were always on my mind. Sorry, David.
Bless my soul. My problem is I don't know the lyrics.
I'm in love. I'm all shook up. David, why are we doing this?
Jailhouse Rock.
Have we just come back from a winery and we're a little bit shicker?
Well, that was in another episode on another occasion, but yes, it was around the corner. We are in one of the... Now...
David.
Yes. You just interrupted me.
I know, but that's because there's a strange man sat at the table.
He's very dark for an Elvis. And he's got chai around his neck.
Why is Elvis sat next to you? I thought he was dead.
We are in one of the least mentioned and underrated tourist traps in all of the state of Israel. It is one of my favourite places on God's earth.
I wouldn't call it a tourist trap. I mean, you didn't trap us because you have to go a long way out of your way to a petrol station.
That's the whole point. You do not have to go out of your way to visit this place. We are just about 200 yards off the main highway between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem.
You don't see it unless you know it's here. It's one of these things. It's like got a cloak of invisibility.
If, folks, you are ever travelling from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem or vice versa, just by a town, Abu Ghosh, there is a gas station or petrol station, as Mark called it, and it is known in Israel as Elvis.
And Elvis endorses the Jerusalem Post podcast travel edition. Oh.
We are in what can only be described as the wackiest diner in Israel. Outside there is a massive statue of Elvis. There's a huge guitar. There are Elvises all over the walls. And then you step into this diner, which is a tribute to the great man.
Remember to wear your blue suede shoes when you come in.
Oh, dearie me. Have you got any more puns while we're at it and lyrics?
No, David. You're always on my mind, though.
Oh, my Lord. Anyway, folks, this was just a quick interlude in the podcast to say to you, if you're looking for something unique, something great, something fun to do, good food as well, not kosher, but good food too, Elvis is the place to be.
My darling,
can't you see?
La 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 la.
Tenderly, I'm in love with you.
Jerusalem Fact File. El Al flies to Ben Gurion Airport from most major European cities, plus New York, Boston, Miami, Los Angeles and Fort Lauderdale. There are flights with Arkia, Israel, Fly Dubai, Etihad and other airlines. Taxis from Ben Gurion to Jerusalem take around 45 minutes and cost between $80 and $95. Trains to Jerusalem Navon station take just 26 minutes and cost only $5. Jerusalem has a selection of fine dining restaurants, including Asaf Granit's Machane Yehuda, which is not kosher, while all the following are kosher: Eucalyptus, Modern at the Israel Museum, Piccolino, and Rooftop with its stunning views at the Mamilla Hotel. If you can't make up your mind, try a Machane Yehuda food tour and sample the best of Jerusalem's main market. In Jerusalem, the summers are long, warm, arid and clear, and the winters are cold and mostly clear. Over the course of the year, temperatures typically vary between 5 degrees Celsius, that's 41 degrees Fahrenheit, and 29 degrees Celsius, that's 85 degrees Fahrenheit. The currency is the Israeli shekel. 100 Israeli shekels will cost you $27 as of November 2024. There's a good range of 5-star hotels in Jerusalem. The Teatron, King David, Waldorf Astoria, David Citadel, Orient and Mamilla in Western Jerusalem, and the American Colony in Eastern Jerusalem.
Hi, this is David Harris from the Jerusalem Post podcast Travel Edition. Find us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at MarkDavidPod or mail us at markdavidpod@gmail.com.
I don't know if you out there in listener land remember, but a number of months ago we were at the opening of a wonderful hotel called the Teatron Hotel, the Theatre Hotel in Jerusalem, and we sat with the general manager Sheldon Ritz, and I made an awful joke about his name, which I'll probably make a couple more times.
And I remember when we hosted Putin at the King David, there was an article, Putin on the Ritz.
We got talking to Sheldon, and Sheldon has lots of interesting stories to tell us about his time at the King David, working with embassies, working with royalty, working with all sorts of visitors.
The first thing we want to know is a little bit about you, Sheldon. So tell us your story.
I'm actually 30 years in Israel. 19 of those years I worked at the King David, starting off as assistant banqueting manager and moving up to the deputy general manager of the hotel. For many, many years, I was the assistant of Chaim Shkedi, the general manager, who was there for 26 years. So I moved my way up, thank God. And then I did a break from 97 to 99. I was the banqueting manager. I opened the new Hilton Hotel, which is now the David Citadel. I had my own company for 4 years, bringing in people from abroad to do events in the country. But then the Intifada came, so I did another stint at the King David. Twice at the head office of Dan Hotels. I was the director of sales for embassies and government ministries for all the 17 hotels of the Dan Corporation. And then in 2020 or 21, I had a nice offer to become the general manager of the Crown Plaza Jerusalem, which is opposite the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, a tall round building. which became called the Vert Hotel. There's 4 in the country called Vert. It's just a brand of Africa Israel, like Indigo and like Crown Plaza. And I was a general manager there. So basically, I was many years the number 2, and I decided to do a break and to try and be the number 1, because, I need to build up my pension fund as well towards my latter years of working. I still have another 11 years to go. So I was a general manager there. I did the opening for a year and a half, and then I got a very nice offer to come here to manage this hotel.
I'm actually quite lucky. I've heard your name before. I work half my time at the British Embassy, and I've been involved with a number of visits.
You're not a spy, are you?
No, I'm not. Well, if I was, I couldn't say anyway. But given the fact that I couldn't say anyway and I've now said it, I'm definitely not. Or am I? I've confused myself. So we would always hear the name Sheldon at the embassy. Whenever there was a visit coming on and someone was staying at King David, it's like, speak to Sheldon. Sheldon will deal with this. And I was very lucky. I was involved with a prime ministerial visit in 2015, and we were based at the King David, and I think I bumped into Sheldon a couple of times. He probably doesn't remember me, but you could see what he was dealing with. So Sheldon has probably plenty to tell us. So let's try and not get Sheldon into trouble, but try and hear some of his best stories.
It's a terrible thing to ask someone to name drop, but that's actually been your profession, is meeting these folks. So start off by dropping some names.
It's not easy to do delegations because, of course, you're dealing with leaders, world leaders, heads of state, head of governments, and there's no room for error. So you have to have your finger on the pulse all the time. I was like a one-stop shop in the hotel. If someone wanted a state banquet, I took care of it. If someone wanted 100 rooms, I took care of it. And someone wanted a lunchbox, I took care of it. So people knew just to contact me, and they knew that the job would get done. I've took care of 5 American presidents. President Bush twice in 2008, President Obama in 2013, President Trump in 2017. And then actually when I was at the Hilton, we hosted President Clinton in 1998. He was at the Hilton with Madeleine Albright as the foreign secretary. So the King David has hosted in the 21st century every single American president. So I met them all. I have photos. Doesn't really buy food in the supermarket, but it's very nice to meet these people. And all of them are very, very gracious. It's amazing. On the British side, British delegations, really I remember even David Miliband, who was the foreign secretary, when I took him to a suite, he's personally asked me, how are you? What is your name? How long have you been here? They're very personal people. Prime Minister Tony Blair, who was many times, 3 times I think he came as a Prime Minister, plus of course as the head of the quartet, so he was all the time at the King David, and we became, I can't say we became friendly, but we became very friendly to each other. I can't say as friend, but friendly to each other, and we always knew my name and everything. And then of course we had Boris Johnson, when he came like twice in a year, once when he was the mayor and once when he was the Prime Minister, David Cameron, and then of course we had Prince William. This was something that I won't forget, because I took him up to the elevator with him to his suite. I was there 10 minutes in his suite, signing on the book. I showed him where his dad signed, which is the king now. He was, I think, twice in Israel. He signed in the guest book. He said, do you want me to sign next to my dad or my own page? I said, take your own page. And I just saw how Prince William, how he treated his staff. Unbelievable. He had quite a few people around him. And he was really, really a great man. How he treated all his staff. He was like one of them. No airs and graces. We have some very high maintenance heads of state that came. Can't mention some countries. How can I say, there's some countries that are more organized than other countries taking care of heads of state and their requests. We never want to say no. So for example, when President Sarkozy came, I think it was in 2009, we had 3,000 people in the garden of the King David doing a stand-up cocktail, like a fork buffet, with Carla Bruni, all the snipers on the roof and everything.
Well, you didn't like him, you brought snipers in especially.
Snipers, yeah. Can't say that President Sarkozy was a main attraction, but at that event. But he had a very nice wife. She's a very nice woman. And I remember that we had to bring in special stuff because we couldn't get it. Like in those days, he had chocolate. He needed more than 90% cocoa in his chocolate. We didn't have it, so we imported it as well. President Trump, he needed special Tic Tacs that he had. If we couldn't bring it in, we asked the advanced delegation to bring it on the plane with them, things like that. I remember the Secretary of State, Condoleezza Rice. She used to come, of course, and do the shuttle diplomacy from our hotel. And Warren Christopher, All he had is black coffee and one slice of dry toast for breakfast. And he was so thin.
That sounds like something straight out of the Blues Brothers. A whole chicken and dry white toast.
Yeah. But, you think these world leaders are high maintenance, but some of them are so low maintenance and so down to earth. When we have heads of state and heads of government, we used to have the bath gowns and we did the logo, like, for example, Prime Minister Tony Blair. On the 6th floor, which was a secured floor, he opened up at 10 Downing Street and used to go between his suite and the office and with the gown and everything written Prime Minister Tony Blair. So it was very nice that I saw him wearing our gown with his name. Things like this will always stick in my mind.
I've got this vision of Donald Trump with DT coming down to reception and addressing. I'll go, excuse me, do you have a bottle opener?
When President Trump left in 2017 from our hotel, we had a photo shoot. Me and Chaim Shkili, the general manager, stood there, and he stood in the middle with the two of us, and he said to us, guys, you know that you need to get more lighting in the bathroom of the presidential suite. So I said, no, we didn't know this. And then my boss, Chaim Shkili, says, no, from someone coming from you, we never heard that before, someone on a high level like you. But of course, we'll immediately fix it, which he actually did. A few years later said, he was actually trying, he's a hotelier, he was trying to help you. He wasn't trying to be saying something nasty or something like that. He was trying to actually help you because he knows hotels, of course. I actually was invited to stay in this hotel when I went to DC. I think I was in the APAC once. And then I stayed one night at the Trump International Hotel. It was something amazing. And then he organized me a trip to the White House and a trip to the Capitol. And so I made some good connections.
No name dropping.
Yes.
What's the most awkward request you've had?
Prime Minister Johnson, he loved the hummus of the hotel. So when he walked in, and he knew me for quite a while, he walked in the hotel and said, hello, Sheldon, please take me to get some hummus. So I took him to the bar and we organized him some hummus there. I don't know, but there's some, like when you got a presidential visit of America, you have food tasters and everything that come to the kitchen. And there's a lot of requests because you need to have 100 eggs, he'll choose one, 100 apples, you want this one. You could never ever do the mise en place to prepare anything for a presidential visit because they had to taste it first and they randomly chose things like that.
Do you ever feel that when those types of people come, that there is excess, there is too much? Maybe in the older days when people were less aware of sustainability and so on, that there was a lot of waste and you'd be throwing things out and actually feel quite bad about it.
Yeah, sometimes it's true that we had to cook like a whole apple strudel for someone, a few of them, and they had to choose. But in a way, it's not a waste because sometimes we use it in other outlets of the hotel. They used to order a lot of food. Like, for example, if there's one person, they used to order like 3 or 4 different main courses and everything because they're not really sure what they would want. They're head of state. So we used to prepare a lot of food. And that way there was.
Jerusalem, in particular, has seen a phenomenal change in the hotel industry in the time that you have been here. From a handful of good hotels and 1 or 2 smaller hotels, many of the smaller hotels having closed, we're now seeing a plethora of new hotels, many of them calling themselves boutique, some of them very high-end. How would you summarize those changes in Jerusalem in the almost 3 decades that you've been in the business here?
I came in the 90s, but I think someone told me the Crown Plaza where I used to work, or what became the Vert Hotel, Africa Israel Group, that was built in the 70s, that was only that and the King David. These were the 2 hotels. And then slowly came, I think it was the Leonardo Plaza, which was the Sheraton, then became the Inbal. Then it became the Waldorf Astoria and the Citadel. Citadel was in 97. Waldorf, I think it was 2013. And a lot of boutique hotels. I know that during the COVID crisis, there quite a few boutique hotels closed down. I think there's about 11,000 rooms in the city.
Israel has a reputation for its people are very much, yeh beseder, everything will be all right. People are very relaxed. The idea of giving VIP service, it's not necessarily natural within Israeli society. How do you get that level of service when you're running a hotel with lots of high-end guests and VIPs?
First of all, we're giving high level security, number one, for every employee that comes into any hotel in Israel has to be checked by the Shin Bet and the Secret Services. This is number one, security. This is the most important thing. Now, how to get a good service. When I was at the King David, we had around, in good times and the holidays, around 400 staff. You have a training department. Training department works day and night, giving English lessons, giving lessons on how to speak to guests, how to present yourself, not to have white socks, you need to wear black socks with the shoes, to have your tie up like this, to make sure that you're shaven. It's a full-time job. Actually, in this hotel, I actually interviewed every single employee of mine. First of all, I spoke to them in English. If they don't have an English, I wouldn't take them. Now, in the housekeeping department, sometimes they're not very fluent in English. So I make them a card that gives them, if a guest comes out, you want to communicate with your housekeeper, someone can you and say, please bring me more towels, bring me more face cloths. So I gave some key words and I translated it so they have it in the pocket, they just pull it out and then they can understand. But slowly, you have to work on the people. You've got to bring them on side with you. Also, what's very important is to give them training, send them on courses, have a very nice environment for them to work, to have an open door policy that any of my staff can come directly into my office if they want to speak to me, to have a very nice dining room. They get complimentary meals, 3 meals a day, 2 meals a day. They get food. They get paid for the transport, of course, but that's by law. I gave them parking. We have such a big parking. They all stay underground if people have cars. Even the person that's cleaning the kitchen, it's such an important job so people don't get food poisoning. It's an incredibly important job to keep the food kitchen, but you've got to give these people just the respect as I would do for my deputy. So I think it's all about training. It's all about education and just to be civil to them. They're all human beings.
Sheldon Ritz, who is the general manager of the Teatron or Jerusalem Theatre Hotel in Jerusalem. It's been a phenomenal conversation. It's been a fascinating insight into what happens in a hotel. But clearly, especially with that last answer you gave, you must be somebody who is driving this forward and changing the face of hotels in Israel. So thank you for the interview and thank you for all that you have done over the last 3 decades in this city.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you to all the listeners who are listening to me.
Discover the future with Inside Israeli Innovation. I'm Eve Young from the Jerusalem Post, bringing you exclusive insights from Israel's top innovators. Each week, we dive into the latest trends in tech, business, and beyond with interviews from the brightest minds in the industry. Whether it's cutting-edge startups or revolutionary tech breakthroughs, Inside Israeli Innovation is your front row seat to the startup nation. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast platform and stay ahead of the curve. Inside Israeli Innovation, where innovation meets inspiration.
Do you want to do the thank yous?
I will actually, because my bowl of
crunches.
My bowl of crunches is empty.
What about the glass of wine?
Empty. Coffee's empty.
What, the lot?
I've only been here 10 minutes.
Yes, would you like to do the thank yous, sir?
I would. Thank you to Caroline Shapiro-Weiss from the Tower of David Museum. Thank you to Elvis. And thank you to Sheldon Ritz from the Teatron Hotel.
Normally at this point, we would tell you that you should subscribe, rate the show, etc. But presumably you heard the start of the pod, so we don't need to do it. Or maybe we should do it twice.
I can't even remember if we did it or not. We were babbling for so long. Anyway, if you like the show, write something positive and give us a 5-star rating, because it will help push us up the ratings and people might find out about us who don't know yet, if there is anybody who doesn't know about us.
It's time for the quiz question. The Midrash reckons that there are 70 names of Jerusalem, which is what we asked you. How many can you name?
17 or 70?
70. 70. Okay, and that's just in Jewish sources. You came up with Jerusalem of gold earlier. What else can you come up with?
Yerushalayim.
Okay. Any others? There are plenty based on that.
No, I'm done.
Okay, so here's a few, and I'm not going to give you all of them. Salem or Shalem, which is actually in Genesis or Genesis. Moriah, which is the mountain. Jebus or Yevus, which is in Judges or Shoftim, Yerushalayim, as you said. Here's an interesting one. Rushalimum, which is in Egyptian. Or Urusalim, which is also in Egyptian. Or Urusalimu, which is how Sennacherib, I can't do it in English, Sennacherib referred to the city in his letters regarding Hezekiah. Do you want to say something at this point?
Hezekiah has a tunnel in Jerusalem.
Thank you for that. We've got Hierosolima in Greek. And then we've got all of these Hebrew ones. Ir HaEmet, the city of truth. Kiryat Ne'emanah, faithful city. Kiryat Aliza, joyful city.
While David prattles on with name after name of Jerusalem, I think he'll be going for an hour or so. It's time to say goodbye, and we'll see you again soon on the Jerusalem Post podcast Travel Edition.
The desired one, Gila, for joy, Tzor HaMishor, the rock of the plain.
We're done now.
Neve
We can
Tzedek,
go.
dwelling of righteousness.
They've switched off.
Oliva, my tent is in her. Ir HaElohim, the city of God.
Switch the lights off on the way out of the studio, David.
Klilat Yofi, encompassing beauty.